2. Welcome to Equal Entertainment. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. This year's Primetime Emmy Awards are being postponed due to the writers' and actors' strikes. Organizers are pushing the ceremony back from September 18th to January 2024. It's the first time the Emmys have been postponed since 9/11. The move isn't coming as a surprise, with actors and writers unable to promote or discuss projects they've worked on. The daytime Emmys were set for June 16th, but were postponed back in May with no new date set. A founding member of the legendary American rock band, the Eagles, has died. Randy Meisner served as the bassist and one of the vocalists for the Eagles. He was best known for his signature ballad, Take It to the Limit. Meisner formed the band in 1971 with Glenn Frey, Don Henley, and Bernie Leadon. He made major contributions to the Eagles' catalog, including the classic LP Hotel California, but left after the album's tour. He appeared with the Eagles at the 1998 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, but never formally reunited with the band. Meisner was 77 years old. Taylor Swift fans have taken Seattle's Lumen Field to a new level of loud. Let me explain. Seismologists say Swift's shows at Lumen Field caused the seismic equivalent of a 2.3 magnitude earthquake, and that's a new record. The Swiftquake beat out the 2011 Beastquake. That's when Seahawks fans erupted after a Marshawn Lynch touchdown. Back then, a magnitude 2 earthquake was recorded, but experts say the Swiftquake at its max was about twice as strong. She can't get Vegas out of her head. Kylie Minogue is coming to the Las Vegas Strip. Minogue announced her 3-month residency at the Venetian Resort's Voltaire venue. The Can't Get You Out of My Head singer will be the first artist to headline at the Voltaire venue. The venue opens in November with ticket sales starting in August. It's Minogue's first string of performances in the States since 2011. She now joins the likes of Lady Gaga, Adele, and of course Vegas legend Celine Dion in Vegas. There's a new documentary out now that chronicles the lives of 4 Black trans sex workers in Atlanta and New York. It's called Kokomo City and shares an authentic and powerful story of Black queer joy. Director Dee Smith talked about how the documentary confronts the challenges facing Black trans sex workers.
You obviously touch on some incredibly vulnerable topics in the film, from sex work and, violence and things that happen to a lot of Black trans sex workers. And I wonder, would you talk a little bit about your interview style and how you approached these, I'll call them stars of your film, to get them to be vulnerable and feel safe and protected all at the same time?
Well, I think I had to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I approached them. I had to let my guard down, leave my personal adversities at home.
Mhm.
I had to really be transparent about the process that I wanted to, perform to do this film. And, like, for example, no glam, no fancy hair, no makeup, most of the
Yeah.
film, and, no fancy clothes per se. I just really want to really hone in on your naturalness, and I think me telling them that, they thought it was something new, and I think it just fed their desire to kind of like be liberated by that, and knowing that it was something new. It wasn't boring. It just felt swaggy and fun and fresh, I think.
Yeah, wonderful. And I wonder, would you talk a little bit about maybe a few things that came out during the interviews that perhaps surprised you, that were kind of unexpected?
Oh my gosh. Well, for one, Leah's opening scene about the gun and everything, I think it was like why the guy had the gun in the first place is because he's been traumatized by trans women, which is so crazy. A lot of reasons. I don't want to say crazy, but it's just an oxymoron. But he was traumatized because sometimes trans women set clients up. It could be another trans woman or maybe a guy or something in a closet, and they would rob the client, and that really was like, whoa, that is crazy. Like that, for example, was so profound to me.
Mm.
And there were other things in the film where whereas obviously the jaw dropping quotes from Daniela at the end explaining, that insatiable desire from Black women to really make their children to be these kind of like heroes for them and ignore who their kids really are. That was just very ear and eye opening.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, thank you. And this film comes at a time um, it's a hard time for LGBTQ plus people across the country. Black trans women are the most vulnerable. There's so much violence and trauma in the lives of Black trans women, and of course we see these deaths. And I don't mean to be a downer, but this is such an important topic, especially as we see the deaths of Black trans women on the rise.
Mhm.
And would you talk a little bit about the importance of making this film and the kind of real activism in making this film?
Well, my greatest inspiration was to kind of like shine light on the Blackness of it all. Like it's really just like an intimate inside discovery of the Black community,
Mhm.
from the perspective of Black trans women, not gay, LGBT, anything Black, and it was it was important that I showed the vulnerability and the transparency of how Black people tell stories. It doesn't matter the trauma. Sometimes we always find humor or find a humorous way to kind of like balance the story, because Black people, we don't really we're not very comfortable like listening to someone sob story for 20 minutes. We have a very like we have an emotional bandwidth that is very limited, and we can't give it all to one person, not in one day.
Right,
So
right.
you got to balance it. If you're going to talk
Yeah.
about trauma, let's keep it real and just
Mhm.
talk, be yourself. And we're not politicians, we're not school teachers. Let's talk as sisters, as friends, as cousins, and
Mhm.
brothers and boyfriends and girlfriends. And I think that approach was refreshing and needed. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, yes, wonderful. And well, also, something that doesn't get talked about enough, I just asked a question about, trauma and all that, but I also want to ask about, showing humor and full lives and, joy for these people who are in your film as well.
Yeah. It's like, you know, again, you have to have a balance of that's just in life. Like you got to have a balance of any too much of anything isn't good, right? It doesn't matter even how healthy or delicious food is. It at the end of the day, it's not good for you. Like
Yeah.
you have to have a good balance of telling stories and portraying people, um, because that's what create the human experience. We all are very complex, and we all want and need balance. Um, for our transgender narrative to kind of move forward and the needle to kind of move forward, we have to tap more into our humanness
Yeah.
rather than making us superhuman and untouchable and unrelatable, untangible. We're going to lose a lot of support,
Right.
because no one is greater than the other. We all want to be validated. We all want to be treated equally. And I think for trans people or anyone that wants to explore or exploit transgender stories or queer stories, we got to take a step back objectively and kind of get out of our way and just like present ourselves as humans if we want to be treated as such. So
Yeah.
just for allowing trans women to smile and laugh and cry, without fighting and being defensive, it's just like it's beautiful.
Kokomo City is in theaters now. You can watch The Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For The Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.